Good evening. It is Wednesday, the 24th day of August. No, July. What day is this? I'm so confused anymore. It's July. Anyway, I guess most of you by now have either seen or seen clips of or heard about Joe's farewell speech. Um, I swear, I don't usually watch those things, but I happened to be in front of the TV, and as you would expect, the channel broke in breaking news. So anyway, I sat there and watched it. And as I'm watching the same thing usually happens when I'm watching the news or political anything. And I wanted to throw stuff at the TV, which is why my wife doesn't like for me to be in there when she's watching the news or anything else. Anywho, uh, yeah, I just as he made each of his comments, I just things popped into my head. It's like, are you kidding me? So, what I wanted to do originally, and I just don't have the technology ability to figure this out yet. Maybe somebody can help me later. I wanted to do a split screen, me on one side, the video clip on the other, and I'd play the video of Joe speaking and stop it and comment. Um, So what I'm going to do is this. I'll put the video itself in the comments section of the video so you can play it yourself. I'm going to play it now and speak to it as it's playing. I'll stop it. That's why I've got the headphones on so I can hear it. And somebody's now texting me. Anyway, so I'll try to read what he says to you or say what he says to you, and that way you know what it is I'm responding to. I hope that makes sense. This may take a while. I know that long videos can bore people, so I'll try to do this quickly. So the video itself is about 11 minutes, but with my commentary, it might stretch it out a little bit. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll take it back to the beginning here. Joe's sitting at his desk in the Oval Office, and let's begin. Speaking to Unite from behind his desk in the Oval Office. Okay, so he's talking about the presidential portraits hanging around the office and quotes from each of those presidents, and talked about how Lincoln said we should forego malice. Funny, coming from Joe and coming from Democrats, but anyway. Then he goes on to say that he has done what he has done as president, running for office, serving the country because he loves his country. Really? Well, I judge people based on actions, not on words, because words are cheap. You can say a lot of things. You can say anything. You can lie to people. You can look them right in the face like a lot of people on TV do and lie to you. So words are easy. Deeds are precious. And my first thought was, well, Joe, your actions don't indicate that you love your country. They do indicate, however, that you love what your country can do for you. How are all those bank accounts doing, Joe? Moving on. He's talking about loving the once again defense of democracy. And by the way, how do you defend democracy by censoring people you don't like? How do you defend democracy by weaponizing the DOJ against people who challenge your authority? Is that how you protect a democracy? maybe he's got a different idea of what a democracy is. But once again, we're not a democracy, we're a republic. Telling us how it's not about him, it's about you and your families, about the people. And we would go with a commercial for 15 seconds. So, yeah, as you would expect. Just anyway, here we have another commercial. Skip it. All right, back to the video. Yeah, we got to decide if we still believe in honesty, decency, and respect. Well, Joe, do you? How about you Democrats out there? Especially the ones that were real happy that Trump got shot, but were unhappy that the guy missed. You ready for that? That's Joe saying it. Of course, again, like I said, I judge people by their actions, and I haven't seen any of that coming from him. I remember when he ran for office. I remember some of the speeches he made. I remember when he was walking out amongst the people and wagging his finger at people and telling them, you're full of shit and I'm going to kick your ass. I remember that stuff. Maybe the Democrats don't want to remember it, but we can find the videos. They're still out there. Yeah. And now at times like this, we can see those who disagree with us as fellow Americans, not as enemies. Well, Joe, I got news for you, buddy. And I've addressed this before with you, the folks who are on my Facebook page. If your idea of getting along is I'm supposed to just bend over and grab my ankles and say, thank you, sir, may I have another, every time you try to take away another of my rights or take more of my money out of my paycheck or out of my Social Security, no, we're not friends. We're not going to get along. We're not talking about, we like different football teams. Um, he might be a UConn fan and I'm an Alabama fan, or whatever the case may be. We're not talking about he likes Mexican food and I like Italian food. We're not talking about he likes blue and I like red. No, we're talking about liberty, the sole political value on which I base my thoughts and my opinions, liberty. And anybody who threatens that, I don't care who you are, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, family, friend, coworker, I don't care. You can be as nice as you want, pat me on the back, shake my hand. You can bring me over to your house for dinner and treat me like royalty. But after I leave and you start talking about what you want to do politically and who you're going to vote for and what they want to do politically, and it takes away my liberty, no, we're not going to be friends. I'm not going to get along with people like that. Does character in public life still matter? Well, Joe, what do you think? Does it? Apparently, a lot of people don't care. As long as you vote the right way and say the things they want you to say, character, they don't give a shit about that. We're a great nation because we're good people. Are we? Again, I mean, I know there are some out there, but not in politics. keeps talking about democracy. Ugh. Then why are you and your party doing everything you can to stomp it out? There we go. Nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. Once again, talking about the democracy. It's not a democracy, Joe. It's a republic. Pass the torch to a new generation. Well, you know what, Joe? I got news for you. You're not going to unite us by passing the torch on to others like yourself, others who seek to subjugate those they disagree with, others who seek to take away rights and liberties because you don't like them, others who see the Constitution as an impediment as opposed to the form of government under which we're supposed to live. So you can pass the torch. It may be a different face on the TV screen now, but it's the same people doing the same things. So that's not going to unite us. New voices and fresh voices. Really? They're fresh? They're coming up with new ideas, Joe. Stuff you haven't thought about, stuff you haven't pushed for. Fresh ideas. Okay. All right. So for the next 6 months, he's going to continue to do his job as president, which means he's going to continue to lower costs for hardworking Americans. Continue to, Joe? When did you start? Anybody else out there still working? Now, I'm retired, but any of you guys out there who are still working, have you seen costs coming down at all? Is he helping you? You're going to grow the economy. How's that working out for you? Do you guys still go out to restaurants or go out shopping or just go to any business and still see signs saying, please be patient, we're understaffed, or still looking for people to come to work there? He's going to keep defending our personal freedom and our civil rights. Does that include the Second Amendment, Joe? That's one of our rights, isn't it? It's in the Bill of Rights, right behind the First Amendment. It's the second one. Are you going to defend that right? Yes, from the right to vote to the right to choose. Hey, Joe, is there anybody in this country, legally born American citizen, who is not allowed to vote? Do you guys know anybody? Do you know anyone that is not allowed to vote? American citizen now, born in America or naturalized, an American citizen. They love talking about that crap. And you've seen the videos, as I have, where man in the street interviews, going down the street talking, and it's always the white liberals, isn't it? Do you think that people are having their voting rights restricted? Oh, yeah. It's obvious that, the black people are trying to be stopped from voting, and, they try to make it difficult for them. They have to get an ID, blah, blah, blah. Same guy goes down another block or two, and now he's interviewing all black Americans. And they're going, well, yeah, I have an ID. The DMV's right down the block here. All you got to do is go in there and get one. So they keep throwing, we're going to unite the country, but we're going to keep driving wedges in there wherever we can so we can get our votes. But we're going to unite the country. Bunch of bullshit. Yeah, no place in America for political violence, ever. Joe, where were you in 2020? That's only 4 brief years ago. I remember it. Well, you probably don't. You probably can't even remember what you had for breakfast this morning. But how about you Democrats out there? Excuse me, you liberals. This is your man talking to you. You loved him. You voted for him. So, what do you think? Is he right or wrong? Is there no excuse for political violence? Because I remember 2020 was nothing but political violence. And I remember just a week ago after Trump was shot, all of you who were posting, oh, what a damn shame the guy missed. Ooh, just a couple of inches away from ending that guy's life. I remember how disappointed you were. Well, if that's the way you feel about politics, Mr. and Mrs. Democrat, liberal, is it okay if we do it too? Is it okay if we start, trying to take out some of your guys? Because, hey, you've set the precedent. You've made it clear that you're okay with it. Is that how it works? Because Joe's saying it's not. So do you agree with Joe or don't you? Yeah, he's still talking about ending cancer. Of course, global climate change, existential threat. Joe, shut up. Everybody knows that's bullshit. But it's a wedge that you can use. But then he talks about he's still going to end cancer. Well, you got 6 months, Joe. You promised us you were going to do it in your first term. Well, you got anything happening on that front? Because I haven't heard anything in the news. How about you guys? Anybody else heard anything about the cure for cancer? You think Big Pharma's going to let that happen? Remember, Big Pharma spends billions, that's billions with a B, every year buying politicians. Politicians are the ones who are going to have to approve financing for this stuff, funding for it, for research, etc. You think Big Pharma, even if Big Pharma, one of their scientists did in fact discover a cure for cancer, do you think they're going to let it see the light of day? And what the hell does Joe have to do with that? Is he in the lab working with them? I mean, don't you understand how these people just manipulate and play you? Both sides do it. When Trump makes a speech, it's all empty platitudes. No, it's going to be great. Yeah, you're going to love it. Yeah, great. What's going to be great? Could you be a little more specific? So both sides do it, and you guys just lap it up like a thirsty dog. Supreme Court reform, critical to our democracy. What does that mean exactly? What's wrong with the current form of the Supreme Court? Now, I know some people don't like certain of the judges, and I know why they don't like them. But you know what? That's been the case since the Supreme Court was created. So when he says Supreme Court reform, exactly what does that mean? To me, it means, and what I'm hearing coming from him is, we got to find some way to pack the court in our favor. Now, what a lot of people seem to forget is the Supreme Court is not there to create law. It is there to interpret whether law is or is not constitutional. It is the Congress where laws are supposed to be debated and made. And if they're wrong, or if they're determined to be unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, then that law gets thrown back to the Congress to fix it. It's not the Supreme Court's job to make law. I mean, guys, political science 101. Anybody who's had high school poli sci, anyone who's had a history class ought to know that. It's embarrassing that they don't. first president this century to report that the United States is not at war anywhere in the world. Yeah, well, you might mention that to Russia, because I'm sure they think you're at war with them. I mean, look, we've been through this before: World War One, World War Two, the Lend-Lease Act. If you're giving aid and comfort and ammunition and weapons, or even not just giving it to them, but selling to an enemy of country A, and you're selling them to country B is fighting country A. Do you think country A might see you as an enemy? Do you think that country A might think that you are at war with them? Now, we may not yet have boots on the ground, and don't think there aren't people on the right and the left who want to see that happening. My Republican friends would love to see us send troops over to Israel. So, whether you're on the left and you support Ukraine or the right and you support Israel, there are lots of people out there who want to see us send our troops to another war. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just speed this up and give you my commentary as opposed to just listening to the video, because this will take all night. So moving on, I mentioned, Russia, Ukraine, Israel. Maybe we should stop sending money to all these countries. Call me crazy. But when you do that, when you pick sides in a fight, then one of those sides is going to see you as the enemy. And that might cause problems. I don't know. You think it's happened before? Then he talks about keeping NATO strong. Yeah, well, I think we all know what that means. That means we're going to keep paying for it, because the only president that I can remember who even talked about making the other NATO nations pay their fair share was Donald Trump. Now, everyone here knows I'm not a Trump fan, but I will give credit where credit is due. And at least Trump was making an effort to make the other NATO nations pay for their fair share instead of making you and me have to pay it all. Talks about how when he took office, we were in the worst economic crisis ever. Really? Joe, what country were you thinking about? Because as I recall, the 4 years prior to you, the economy's doing pretty damn good. Lowest unemployment rate in the history of the country. Black, brown, Asian, women, men, everybody who wanted a job had one. Lowest unemployment rates in all of those categories. Gas was under $2 a gallon. I mean, think of all the things that were going well with the economy. But Joe says it was the worst economy ever. And turns right around and starts talking about how now the economy is going gangbusters, man. They're gaslighting. If you looked up gaslighting in the dictionary, you would see Joe Biden's face right there. I mean, how do you look people in the face or look in the camera and tell people just outright lies like that and think that we're just stupid enough to believe it? Says he wants to help seniors. He did that by helping lower pharmaceutical costs. Yeah, Joe, you want to help seniors? As a senior, let me tell you what I'd like to see you do. How about stop taxing my damn Social Security check every month, huh? You voted for it. You were the one who pushed for that law. See, a lot of people don't want to talk about that. Now, Social Security, you're not supposed to touch Social Security. It's sacrosanct. You got to leave that alone. Everybody's supposed to get it. Everybody looks forward to it. It's your right. So don't talk about Social Security. But it's okay to tax it. They already took that money out of your paycheck over your entire working career. And then when you go to get that money, they're going to tax it again. You remember the George Carlin routine about that? says the violent crime rate is at an all-time low. Really? Well, maybe, just maybe, that's because the DOJ and police departments across the country are no longer reporting those statistics. You think that might have something to do with it, Joe? Ask the people who live in most of our major cities if they think the violent crime rate's gone down. Once again, gaslighting. I just, how they have the stones to sit there and say that. I mean, you got to have balls the size of basketballs to sit there and then next tell us that the border is secure. That, in fact, the lowest number of people coming across the border since the previous administration. Joe, stop it. We can see what's going on. The very people who work down there have told us what's going on. For God's sakes, just stop the freaking lies. Then he bragged about how he fulfilled his promise to assign the first black female to the Supreme Court. Well, that's great, Joe. Check off that box. Black female. Is she qualified? Did that ever figure into the equation? Maybe that's the kind of reform you're talking about for the Supreme Court. Maybe we should start looking at whether people are actually qualified to be on it or not, as opposed to what their skin color is or what their genitalia is. He said he wanted his administration to look like America. The part of America that needs mental help. We've seen some of those. In fact, a couple of them are still there. And anyway, I don't need to get too deep into that one. He talks about how Kamala is a great choice and she can do a wonderful job and what a strong person she is, blah, blah, blah. Really? Is that the same Kamala that we've been seeing on the news all the time? I mean, Joe, you do realize that we can see her and hear her, right? Then he talks about the quote from Ben Franklin when asked by a woman, what kind of government have you given us? He said, a republic, if you can keep it. Joe actually said that. I was surprised. He actually said republic. That's right, Joe. It's a republic, dumbass. Now it's a republic when it's convenient for you, but any other time it's a democracy. Yeah, your heart and soul, you got quite a bit in return, too. He talked about, how he put his heart and soul into serving his country. Your heart and soul. Yeah, I'd say you got quite a bit out of that service, too, didn't you, Joe? How are all those bank accounts doing? Family doing okay? Got their money coming in? Then he finishes by saying, God bless America and God bless our troops. Well, Joe, if we're not at war, why do our troops need protection? In fact, why are they still in bases all over the globe? Why aren't they home? But that's another story. Anyway, so it's just the same old gaslighting bullshit that you and I have heard before. I don't know when or if it's ever going to end. I'm just so sick of it all. And, I've said it before, both sides do it. And right now it's just the Democrats are the ones you see the most on TV talking about it. So Joe's out of the picture. Kamala is next up. If the party allows it. Now, they still have their convention coming up. And who knows what's going to happen there. They might decide, maybe it's Michael's turn. Or, no, Hillary got screwed the last couple of times. We should let Hillary do it. But whoever they pick, if you think they're going to be any different than Joe Biden, then you haven't been paying any attention. So there it is. I'm going to end it with that. That's my commentary on that speech. You guys have a good evening.